so for me to go and have Denon at home and then go out and play on Pine, it does not matter to me.
Well, I guess
fly in
just...
here, sorry guys. It's a fly and it's doing my nutting.
That's one for the blooper.
Yeah, so it's just okay. Welcome to the Dance Party 247 podcast. Today you got DJ T, you got myself, DJ Envy. We've got a special guest, one of the Dance Party's DJs, Anessa. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click the notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching or listening on Spotify, give us a like and share the content. Over to you, T.
Good evening. I'm going to throw it straight back to you because just before we're about to record, you're going to ask Anessa for a bit of independent advice. So off you go.
It's not advice; it's more of an opinion, isn't it? Okay,
Same coin, different sides.
I've always got one of them.
So obviously, I mentioned I'm buying some new CDJs or media players that they're called now. Not really called CDJs anymore.
All right.
So I'm looking at the Denon SC6000. Or do I go down the Pioneer route?
I would always go down the Pioneer route myself. I mean, I was born and raised on those things, but they've always delivered. They've always lasted. Wear and tear is great, intuitive. I mean, guy like you'd use them in 2 minutes, but yeah, I think give Pioneer a chance, and I think it'll last you at least 10, 12 years, easy.
Okay, so look at it like this then. Yeah, we've got. Do you know much about the 6000?
Not off the top of my head, no.
All right, okay. So the 6000 does more than Pioneer's 3000. Beats it hands down. But my issue is it's not Pioneer because Pioneer is what you find in the clubs, the bars, and all that. But I want it to be for more performance. I can't afford the 3000s. They're just too much money. Bottom line, they're like 2,200 each. It's ridiculous.
That's what's always going against you with Pioneers. You do pay top dollar, but
yeah, I think they're overpriced. But so I'm in an R-in, but I go on Thursday this week to pick up my first deck. So I buy them one at a time. Can't afford to buy them both at the same.
Well, yeah, you got to make those over, at least 48 monthly installments. You're not paying that.
Oh no, I'm paying cash. I'm paying cash, but I'm saving up. I'm going to get one because of my biggest worry is supply and demand. There's not a lot of anything, is there?
Yeah, but I would say if your main concern is performance and you're talking about being clubs, then wouldn't it make more sense to go with the club industry standard? Because you don't want to be caught short being used to playing this Wonder set on your Denon 6000s, which, might be a time machine. But then you get to the club, oh, shit.
You can't do that.
I've got my weapons. That was all your secret weapons. You get caught short, so then you're just relegated to playing a standard set by comparison.
That was what was said on in the mix video, get in the mix. That's right. That's where he's going to go buy them from, coincidentally. But there is obviously the guys on the shop floor are DJs, and they said if you're a performer, you go down the Denon route. If you're just going club use, go obviously with the Pioneer. They're completely different, made for completely different people. But they are right in saying that it's probably more powerful, it's better. However, you want to repeat that unless you've got the same equipment in the club, which you probably won't. It's going to be Pioneer. Then you have to not dumb it down, but you're going to have to come up with alternatives or a different way of doing stuff. And
this is it.
That's why I'm saying for him, if he has a choice, I'd say the Nexus 900s is probably obviously in his price bracket.
I mean, would you consider a controller? Because they're almost half the price. I know it comes all in one, but
I'm very.
He's
a Neanderthal when it comes to that. Let's be honest.
I know you're a purist, MB, but same time, you got to move with the time.
Yeah, ultimately. I mean, look, the only controller that I looked at was the XZ, wasn't it? That was the only one that I would possibly get. But what stops me getting something like that is if something breaks on it, I lose the whole lot to get it repaired. If I bought, because I've got two other decks that I'm going to probably either sell or keep, I don't know yet, but I could still do shows and bits and pieces. If the controller breaks down, I have to send the whole lot off.
Yeah, but then you still got your two Gemini.
Well, you just said that.
No, but I might or might not. So,
well, if you sell them,
I-
then yes, you're just left with your controller. But for me, the that piece of equipment, the Pioneer XZ, to me, what it is, I look at it the other way around. I look at it as you got a Nexus 2 mixer, and then you got the bolt on off two players as well, and it's all in one unit, and it's a beast, and you're pretty much equivalent to your Nexus full setup. So, but this way, somebody give it me, I'd snap it and run a mile very, very quickly away from them because I would love to have it, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's a marvelous bit of kit because I did look at that in the DJ shop. But I mean, ultimately, I went with the RX2, which is the equivalent of you got your Nexus 2s and you got your DJM 400, which I could argue is quite simple. But then I don't tend to get too fancy with my set. I think track selection's always been key, and you can. I mean, look, God bless all the DJs that can pull it off. You've got Carl Cox on his 4, 5, 6 decks. You've got Richie Horton or Chris Liebing who practically use time machines behind the deck, and they're fantastic. But for me, I think I let the music speak for itself a lot more. Because if the music's good enough, then it's been well produced enough.
See, I think, because I always get called dinosaur, always do.
Because you are.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
But I want to move forward. I don't want to be.
Well, I think if you're
going to
be down with the kids, then obviously Denon's the way to go because Denon's a new kid on the block. It's like we talked about it this before a couple of hours ago. It's like it's your Lamborghini. It's your absolutely. It's not your Ferrari. Ferrari's more classical. Yeah, it's like saying I got a Lamborghini, but then you can say, well, it's not Ferrari.
It's a new age Audi that seems to have moved its way up the rankings in the last few decades.
Exactly. It's not a Ferrari. You know what I mean? If you got a Ferrari, it doesn't matter what you got. It's a Ferrari. So,
well, this is it. I mean, that's ultimately what Pioneer are in the industry. Hence why they're just found in every club. Unless you're that special DJ, they will bring the equipment just for you. I mean, just also,
go on. No, you go. Go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, you talk about one's better for performance, one's better for the club. Ultimately, I think you just got to make the decision. Well, if you're going to record a lot of your stuff, then you may want to go with what's going to sound great as a performance. But then, if you're just going to be playing out, I don't see why you just wouldn't go with the industry standard. Tried and tested. I mean, it's you can't.
Yeah, it is.
I don't think you can really go wrong with either. But
I look at what I get for me pound note as well.
I think there's an element here in the middle which is also clouding his judgment, which is that because a lot of the times he's playing out is events that we're putting on ourselves, so we're bringing our own equipment. So if we've got other DJs playing on Pioneer, that's what you expect. Pioneer or some sort of Pioneer. It doesn't have to be the Nexus, but obviously Pioneer is Pioneer, whether it be controller, whether it be 850s or your 3000s. There's not a lot of difference, not a lot of big learning curve just to get on and play your music. If you want to be fancy, then yeah, there's a lot more underneath the hood on the more top end equipment. But if he brings his Denon, right, he's going to be happy. I'm not really bothered either way too much. Although I must admit, I'll probably fall down the Pioneer side but it's the other DJs, because we have events with other DJs there. It says, well, what would they feel comfortable with? What their reaction would be, and that's clouding his judgment as well. Because if it's just for personal use, you can DJ in anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't got Pioneer at home now. I haven't got Denon. I've got a crappy set of Gemini, which that's a whole other story. I've had issues with them. So for me to go and have Denon at home and then go out and play on Pioneer, it does not matter to me.
Well, I guess
flying sorry guys. It's a fly and it's doing my nutting.
That's one for the blooper.
Yeah, so it's just I don't know.
Well, I think as long as you're prepared to perform to a lesser extent and get it exactly the way you want it in the club using different equipment, i.e. the Pioneer, then as long as you're able to translate some of what you're trying to perform in your own studio to the club, I think you can go wrong.
It'd be like a singer, wouldn't it? The singer sounds perfect in the studio. You get them live. Not everyone's up to it, are they?
That's where the sound system comes in.
One thing we've always said is I've always wanted a CDJ or a media player with pads on. I've said that for a long time to you.
Those are a game changer. I got pads on mine. The amount of trickery you can do.
The SC6000 has pads.
But then you can go Pioneer and go for the XZ, and then you've got everything, and you got pretty much a Nexus 2 mixer in the middle.
Yeah, but I'm quite anti standalones and
That
controllers.
that is the answer. That is the answer to his dilemma. He's got Pioneer with pads, but he doesn't want all in one.
Is it?
The thing is, what you've just done on here now,
I know what I'm saying, but I've had this problem for a long time.
What you've done
half
is
the price.
He's made
half as good.
He's made his choice. He's defended it on podcasts before. Now he's asking you a question and he's getting defensive of basically a decision that he still is up in the air about. It says all day long. I know exactly what he's going to do. I'll guarantee he'll walk away with a Denon. He will not. You will not come out with a Pioneer. You will not do that. Now he's going to prove me wrong, which I hope he does. But anyway.
All right. Okay. Moving on. What was it you wanted to talk about, Anessa?
Anessa wanted to talk about the actual culture of DJing in Ibiza. There's a long season that's starting early, and finishing late, by the sounds of it. Playing a bit of catch up. So, do you want to give us your thoughts, Mr. Anessa, on what's happening over on the White Isle?
Well, I mean, really, it's just I was hoping to talk a bit about the history as well.
Yeah.
At the same time, I was just looking around because obviously I was one of the last, because it's not been open at all the last couple of seasons.
Not properly, no.
I was one of the last people to go there, and really it was. I've noticed now you had parties kicking off end of April, because usually it's kind of end of May. Space used to do their old fiesta in the opening fiesta in the car park. Obviously now that's now known as High. I'm a bit of a I'm a bit of a granddad when it comes to that, obviously. But yeah.
I got a question on that. Does Ushuaia own High?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that too, weren't we?
Yeah.
They were hustling. They hustled through Pepe Rosello, the former owner of Space. Obviously, the lease was coming up, and they were just coveting that for years. That was just prime real estate, and that's why obviously Space had its 27-year end of closing party, which thankfully I managed to go to the penultimate performance. Carl Cox the week before he did his
12-hour.
His 12-hour epic, which that was fun to watch and broadcast. That was quite emotional. But
did you stay the 12 hours though?
No, no, I was sort of dipping. I had it on for most of the Sunday, and then eventually I gave up because obviously I'd work the next day. I was like, all right, mate, I saw you last week. I mean, like, I'll catch you in the morning. He was still playing when I woke up when my alarm went off. I was like, is he still on there? I was like, yeah.
I mean, out of all the DJs in the world, I'm not overly bothered about seeing big DJs. It's never really interested me. It's not like, it's not a big thing for me, but I would love to just a meet and greet and to see Carl play. I would.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's a sound guy, actually.
He's a legend.
Oh, mate, he was on our EasyJet flight back from Mannheim in Germany. We've been to Time Warp, me and a crew of friends. This is now 2011. And yeah, shockingly, there was sort of, whispers go around the place like, oh, Carl Cox is there. Because, my mate went up to the toilet. He's like, yeah, Carl Cox is sitting in the front row. And we're like, shit, like Carl Cox on an EasyJet flight? You'd think this guy's rocking first class, doing his thing. But no, we're like, all right, well.
Quite humbling though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I was like, oh man, what sound dude. So we were like, all right, let's not act like starstruck dickheads.
Fanboy.
I mean, I was just like, you know what? So we just walked up and I was like, oh man, we just saw you play, but you might could get a photo. He's like, yeah, of course, mate, of course you can. It's sound guy. I mean, obviously we're just like, yeah, you go, man. But yeah. And I've seen him play countless times. We're
trying to get him on a podcast, which is obviously quite a challenge.
Really?
Yeah, we are really, really pushing it. We've messaged him and that.
That would
obviously be I would really love to. I mean, for me, he's just the best DJ.
I mean, I'm amazed they haven't knighted him, unless I've missed the news. But I
don't think you've missed anything. I wouldn't necessarily say a knighthood because that's normally reserved.
I think he's got his OBMB or whatever. But I mean,
but I do think that he deserves something for everything he's gave over the years, from the times when he was playing at raves to where he is now. And there was a little bit of a documentary that I watched and he watched. Sorry. hold that thought. Sam, I'm in the middle of a podcast, mate. I'll call you back when I'm done. Cheers, mate. Documentary me and T watched from Channel 4, and there was where was he DJing? He was DJing somewhere dangerous, wasn't he? And people got shot right in front of him.
Oh, it was down one of South American countries, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, people got shot in front of him, and he was saying at that point, he was, you know, I'm in an iron if to give it all up and stop DJing. And you know, when you sit there and think, the DJ world wouldn't be the same if he'd have stopped. If he'd have stopped DJing at that point, it wouldn't have been the same now. Ibiza would never be the same without Carl Cox. And there ain't many DJs that you can say Ibiza wouldn't be the same without him.
You know what? It comes down to okay. The word legend is been demeaned. No, everybody knows where I'm going. It's been demeaned if somebody comes back to from the shops with a packet of crisps and goes, "Oh, you're a legend." You know what I mean? But if you're a legend, to me, that means you've. Okay, well, technically, I suppose that means you have to die, but we've been through that before. But the modern version is that a living legend is that somebody transcends what they're known for. So
the industry, or it's like sports stars do it.
Muhammad Ali,
knows them.
But yeah, someone like Carl Cox, people who have nothing to music know about him.
When you went to Ibiza and you see Carl Cox play, would it have been the same if he wasn't there?
No, for me, seeing Carl Cox.
That's what I'm saying.
That's on Sunday. I think it was Carl Cox, The Revolution. That was the theme of because that was 2010. Carl Cox's Revolution, and that was one of the reasons we went to Ibiza for sure. I mean, we mapped it out. We literally planned it all in advance, but that was one of the key can't miss events for us.
And that's what I'm saying. Like if we lost DJs like Carl Cox, there are a few others that, you know,
I'd say Paul Oakenfold gets an honourable
Fatboy Slim, Pete Tong. You know, there's a few others, but
the pioneers, basically, aren't they? The pioneers.
Yeah, well, you got, you know, if you go down the drum and bass world, you got Nicky Blackmarket, absolute legend in the drum and bass world. You must know him.
Andy
C. Of course. Well, I've seen him play at Rain Dance. He was a Rain Dance.
Rain Dance. I used to go Rain Dance, mate, down at London Bridge.
It was
SE1.
Jenkins Lane, then it was the Drone, then it became SE1.
Yeah,
that was, for me, that's where I started going there.
We've probably bumped into each other years ago, mate.
No,
on a bit of a wobble
everywhere. Oh yeah, I would have been the guy. I would have been the guy in the high vis jacket, constantly. That was.
I know. I would have been the one sweating me tits off. No top. No top. All covered in crap because I've been sitting on the floor.
Oh man, that concrete floor, that was brutal, but I love that place. I love the musky smells. You're going in there.
Yeah, and you get all the sweat tunnels and the condensation dripping off the ceiling.
In the hardcore room, that was where we always got out. That was our warm-up start. I just literally, let's just go head first to into the fire.
That's it.
That just set the tone for me. It was just an experience I'd never had. First time going there, I was like, holy shit, this is what.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Of what it would have been like, because obviously
back in the day
was a big raver back in the day, warehouse, this, that, festivals, Glastonbury, and I was like, shit, okay, I think this is one of those steps back in time that's kind of got it there, and that for me.
Yeah, the thing is, we find that a lot of people are trying to replicate that. There's a kind of a movement again to, because obviously clubbing has gone more corporate in it. VIP booths and all that kind of stuff, and I think there's a bit of rebellion against that to go back to the dark, dingy, grimy basics kind of an environment.
But that was proper raving.
Well, I'd say it evolved from the warehouses because they shut them down, so they legalized it all in the clubs. That's why you saw Ministry of Sound open up in '91. When, that was the criminal justice bill had been passed. So therefore they're like, right, let's, obviously old James Palumbo, Lord Palumbo, he had the idea, hell, fuck it. Let's, I've got my mate, Justin Robertson. I've got this American guy, Larry Levan, designing the sound system, which just blew the balls off any competition. And obviously it went on to become what it did.
Legendary.
There were some podcasts you did, talking about the reopening, obviously how there's, predicting a mad rush, we should take advantage. Would you say that's turned out like you predicted, or have you found that, you know, as promoters, guys trying to, you know, kick off in this, you know, post-pandemic dawn, would you say, have you seen the reaction that you thought you would, or is it kind of, there was a mad rush and then it's sort of, it's leveled out now?
What I think is it wasn't as busy as we thought it was going to be. What I was listening to, there's a station down there. You probably be able to get it where you are, Nessa. Divine.
Yeah, Divine FM.
Yeah. So, I was listening to that, and one of the DJs on there, I can't remember who it was saying that people are only going out now if it's a big event, like a festival,
daytime party,
or big names there. He said, I know, and he was saying that no one's going out as much now to your regular clubs, your bars. It's just not happening.
That sort of ties. Go on.
And that's the sort of vibe that we've got, that we've been feeling. It's been tough. It's been hard.
I mean, would you say that's more just the way the trend is going? Because I was going to say that ties into a point I wanted to make about how Ibiza has sort of gone that way as well.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I would say very much so that we realised that when we played in Brentwood, and there was a festival on that day as well. At that point, the realisation was that people, and it was for a couple of reasons. One, because the festivals are outdoors, and at that point, we're coming out of COVID, so people are still a bit nervous. But if you're outside,
you've been raving 6-7 hours a day, drinking, doing X, Y, and Z. Do you really feel like carrying it on? Some do, but a lot wouldn't. They're like, all right, that's my day. But that's my day and a half. I'm done.
The realization that a big event and a festival, for example, would always win over, I'm going clubbing this weekend, to your local club. So what I found this year, and obviously a few places that we've been to, because we're at the beginning of the summer season now anyway. So ask that question at the end of this year, and it might be a slightly different story, but things are looking a little bit busier for most places this year. But it doesn't necessarily relate back into the club environment, because we're working with more sort of pubs and bars now. So they are kind of on the ascendancy a little bit more. But the club side of it,
venues,
unless you're a big name and you're a big attraction, for someone like us to try and break through, it's probably just as hard, if not harder, I would say.
It's probably harder now than it's ever been.
I mean, I had a friend of mine who worked at Ministry. He was part of the promotions team, and he was saying that the club, even back then, we're going back to now 2011, 2012, that sort of time. And he was saying, yeah, I mean, the club itself loses money, but because it is its flagship, venue, that's where it's HQ, effectively, where it all started. That's why they keep it open, because the record, excuse me, the record label, kept the money rolling in. So they're like, well, yeah, let's just keep it open, because the extortion amount they sort of overpay the DJs. So that's why they love playing there. But yeah, I'm saying, well, unless you're one of those, you can sort of fund yourself. Fabric's sort of been self-sustainable, even though that's sort of faced closure a couple of times. They've always been bailed out by outside investors.
Well, we've got four dates in Leicester. We're going to go there every for this year. We're going there every 8 weeks, because he wants something to be fairly regular. So he's asked several people who've gone back, and he's put those in rotation. So we're there every 8 weeks. The first one, it works out, we're there a month apart, and then it's every 8 weeks, just the way it worked out with the dates. But and he's given us, I won't say that's the full deal, but he's given us a good deal to get us in the door. So okay, well, it's almost reduces our risk down to very, very little to go into that venue, because they'd rather have a half full or quarter full venue and make some money than they'd be completely empty. Yeah.
This is it. It's where the promoter and the DJs go hand in hand. Ultimately, you just hope it grows from there. It builds them enough of a local rep that you start doubling the numbers over time, and then Leicester becomes a new HQ.
We work hard, and people. Where we have to break out is beyond the DJ's influence. Once we get people who've don't know who we are coming in and through, we found that the feedback we get from the bars we've been in, because obviously people will go into a bar because it's free entry, that we do a good job. So that kind of gives us a pat on the back that once you get in the door, but it's the exposure to get somebody in the door, say, you know what, these are good. I'm going to come back with the next in town. That is the hard part.
Well, I think that's where the consistency is key, because some friends of mine, they started a night called Trance Sanctuary. It was in Little Raduno Bar, which probably helped because it was right next to Fabric. I think that was key location as well. But ultimately, it was pretty much just a bunch of us. My mate Jack was actually opened the first ever Trance Sanctuary. But he, yeah, it was just, I think, what, maybe 50, 100 capacity. But then over time, they just grew, well, they grew that into, well, they were selling out the egg. Then they moved to Fabric. So, and this was a tiny little place just because they knew every, it was, I think it was, they had four events per year. It was like bi-monthly or tri-monthly, if you like.
Yeah, well,
that's what we're trying to build.
And that's where it was.
Yeah.
That's just like word, and that was what was key, was the word of mouth that got around. You're like, oh, bang, a little night, center of town. You can go Fabric after 4. That was sort of your end of night party where you can fuck off and get the train home around the corner, Farringdon Station.
I'm obviously how much this actually stays in the edit is a different thing, but we went to the bar, the little busy bar, in the area where we had in our first night in Leicester, because we're not, that club is not quite in the city centre. It's about a mile or so from the city centre. But the little bar opposite seemed to have free hire. We went in there. We did a couple of gigs there. They loved us, and for political reasons, obviously, we never went back. Not our doing. But that's where we got the feedback, is that you do a good job. And we stopped people going from, they actually paid in advance for tickets to go to an R&B event and stayed because we're playing garage and didn't go to the R&B event. That's all the thanks you need, isn't it? As a DJ,
well, everybody loves a bit of garage. I mean, that's just a timeless genre that everyone, even the kids of today, still know the old garage, which I kind of like, actually. That, they're still paying homage, because guys like EZ still going strong. Even in Ibiza, he's sort of had a renaissance through Ibiza Rocks, which is now doing. Obviously, it converted from its sort of nighttime vibe to it's now we're a daytime venue. And I think Ushuaia was the sort of catalyst for all of that. I think that was the game changer.
Because obviously, Ushuaia, obviously open air, planes going over, you go 12 to 12 there, and then you go across the road for your next
well, this is
it's more than 12 hours, isn't it? Whatever they are, across the road and high.
Exactly. So, I mean, just the convenience factor. I mean, I know DC-10 had the, because there you're actually at the end of the runway. That was unbelievable. But yeah, the fact that you had an open air venue.
It's like a concert, isn't it? It's not.
Well, it's outdoor, but it's just the luxury of it all. You've got these overlooking flats. It's all white. It's pristine. It's it's very much upmarket VIP, and it's just. I think that really kicked off the sort of the VIP era of Ibiza after sort of post 2010. That's where you sort of saw it commercialized a little bit. Hence why High, just across the road, is you look at that now from the old Space Terrace to the main room. The main room now is a lot narrower because you got VIP. It's all very black and chrome and leather and silver in there. I mean, it was still decent club, but just, I mean, I guess maybe because I'm old school, I was like, wow, this isn't space.
It takes that old school clubbing, the old school rave feel away, doesn't it? It takes it away. Instead of going into a venue and it's a bit dark, a bit.
Well, you're not going into a club, you're going into a venue. Like I think there's a difference.
Yeah, that's the best way to probably explain it.
I'd say the club itself. I mean, obviously you can say, oh yeah, it's never going to be the same. And it was never meant to be the same. I think they had the commercial endeavor in mind. And I'm sure they're making sacks of money. I mean, certainly not the last couple of years.
Do you know the prices for those? I was watching
I didn't even bother looking when I went there.
A blog this afternoon for the opening party of Ushuaia this year. Obviously, it was this weekend just gone. So Ushuaia, and then you can buy a all-in-one ticket to go to High next door. How much do you think that was for the two?
I'm gonna go with 250 euros.
You're actually a lot cheaper than that, to be fair. It was 150 for the both, or 80 separately. The cheapest price in
150 or 160 out of 10 euros.
Yeah,
they gotta earn a buck, I
exactly.
guess.
Yeah, well, basically, you've got the stamina in it. You save it, but the cheapest ticket in was in high, at €50, but you couldn't go in before 5 a.m. You have to
Wow.
wait till 5 a.m. to
Yeah, but
get
some
the
people
cheap
do that.
seats. Yeah,
Some people do that. Just like you saw as I'm coming out the club at Fabric, say 6, 7, even 8 o'clock, there's still people queuing to get in. I was like, "Whoa,
Yeah,
wow.
I know.
I mean, where have
Egg,
they been? Send up
Egg was
here at 8 o'clock as I'm walking out, thinking I've had a
Egg was the same. Because Egg used to have
Yeah.
a late license till 2, 3 in the afternoon. So at one point, and I was going home, absolutely spangled, was unable to walk
course.
anymore. Eyes are all woo. And there's people walking
walking
up the
through the
road
door.
towards the club, walking past me, talking about we're going to go Egg, and it's like, are you mad?
but
And also
that's how to do it to make the money, though, don't they? Keep the
I
doors
think
open, keep them rolling in.
the 24-hour element also disappeared. I think that was sort of mid to late noughties, because back then, obviously,
Yeah, it was.
heyday, all the clubs, I think, only had to legally shut for 2 hours a day. So for 22 hours, they can just keep people coming in and out. And that's why you had Circa Loco at DC10 that used to kick off at 5 a.m. when it had no roof, for fuck's sake. I mean, those are the days I feel I missed, even though I was sort of the generation after that, if you like. I still was like, wow.
I was going out clubbing at 15. So I caught the tail end of the 90s. And
a great time.
And I'm glad I did. I'm glad I got them last 2 years in the 90s, because it makes me appreciate, the end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s a lot more than if I missed them 2 years. It might sound minor to most people, but if you were there and you experienced clubbing with no mobile phones, no VIP, just music and lights, you can't replicate that nowadays.
Well, 2022,
you can't replicate that.
The club's now not having phones. It's a blackout.
A lot of them now, they make you put it in a plastic bag.
Yeah,
and they take it. They're like, right.
I don't. Is Ibiza doing what they're doing out in the Balearics? They only 6 beers. No, that's for fully inclusive, isn't it? 6 beers.
That's all inclusive. Yeah.
Well, one beer in there will cost you €20. I mean,
yeah,
God knows what it costs now, but buying around wasn't cheap in Amnesia or any club for that matter. Even the water. I mean, water should be free. It's like, what, you charge me €12 for a little 300ml airplane sized piece of shit? I was like, oh, come on, man. Because they know you can't drink the local water, because obviously,
well, you get ill, wouldn't you?
A lot of people, exactly. So you're like, well, all right, I'll
pay
the money. Yeah, well, that's it. You just factor in a water budget. I say this whilst you consider it a rip-off and everything else, and it's something. I think you pay the price of admission, and I can't ever say I felt shortchanged anytime I ever went to Ibiza, despite the massive costs. It's
as if you're going on holiday. You're going on holiday and doing a lot of motorway driving or autobahn driving or whatever. You're gonna have to pay the prices. You're not going to go to your local backstreet town to get cheap fuel, are you?
In a small sense, I pretend I'm rich. That's all the money I've got. I'm here to spend.
Well, it's a holiday, and
I'm spending with both hands.
Holiday.
Ultimately, going to Ibiza.
I do think they take advantage, though. Just,
of course,
just a little bit.
Yeah, but people like us, we don't care. We'll go. Nothing's going to stop me wanting to see Carl Cox.
No, that's it.
Place. That's it.
That's it. I mean,
you just factor it in and you save accordingly.
Next year, I'm going to go. Next year, I'm going to go and see him live. I've always wanted to, and I've always put it off, and I am going to go next year.
I don't know why, mate. I mean, I would have thought an old school guy like you would have seen him.
Yeah, but
I've seen him
so back in the day, my job was DJing. That's what I'd done for a living. So to go and see these people, I'd have to lose a weekend's worth of money. I'd have to lose a weekend's worth of money, and I would DJ regularly, either every Saturday or Saturday and a Friday. So it was, I couldn't afford to do that.
Slave to your own pound. I mean, if it makes sense, because you're gigging, you're doing what you need to do. You're effectively doing what you love. I mean, all right, yeah, Carl Cox, great, but hey, timing was working.
I had kids. We got to the point where DJing weren't enough money for me, and this is when me and T kind of split for a few years, wasn't it? Because I had to get a real job.
You left me. You just went, I'm going to the underground. Nice knowing you.
Yeah, but I had to get a
There
real job.
weren't the underground music scene either.
But
No, it weren't,
thing
unfortunately.
is, ironically, he was still working on the underground, although he had a spell away from it. He was back on the underground when he started Dance Party in a lockdown. So why you couldn't carry on in the years in between?
No, because so back then, like they expected you to work 6 days a week. That was standard, you know, and you know some weekends you'd work both Saturday and Sunday, you know, and yeah, and it was nights.
Yeah, but the thing is, it was still on nights when I was reintroduced. I was allowed back into the fold, so to speak, a couple of years back. But he's now in a softer number. When he working 2 hours, if he's lucky, and he's 20 minutes with the graph. That's it. He's home.
Yeah, it weren't like that back then. I was doing full shifts, mate. You know what I mean?
Well, hopefully it comes full circle if you get Carl Cox to appear on this podcast.
But I do
That
think
would all tie in nicely.
If we could get someone big on the podcast, it would be brilliant for us.
Yeah.
Well, just in terms of the exposure he would have, I mean, he's got to have at least 1 million or two. I mean, at least a couple of million followers.
I think he's got something like 2 or 3 million.
2, 3 million. I mean,
Instagram.
that's, you know, all he's got to do is put that on the story, and you know, just in terms of the traffic, even for an initial period,
that would be like
you have that as a permanent fixture on the Instagram. I mean,
yeah. I mean, the reason, a couple of reasons. Obviously, he's Envy's hero. He's one of the pioneers, but Envy's hoping to his good nature that he does. You know, he puts back into the grassroots, and you can't get more grassroots than what we're all trying to do, trying to get a leg up. So just by saying, well, I'll give you 40 minutes of my time, guys. Yeah, then. It'll make a world of difference to what we'd be doing subsequently, and the numbers we would get, and you know, YouTube subscribers and a bit of ad revenue would make a massive difference to what we'd be doing.
Yeah, and one thing he did say, on that
Channel 4 interview,
Channel 4 interview, we'll send it to you, unless you got to watch it. You know, he was like, "Don't forget where you come from. Don't forget where you started."
I saw that. I think it was the 2-hour documentary.
We only had a 30-minute of it, but it's like, always remember where you started and what you've had to build and do to get where you are, you know, because he was just a simple young lad from London, wasn't he?
Well, he grew up in South London, but then he moved to Brighton with his family. Got started there. He was fixing Paul Oakenfold's car, and that's sort of how they linked up initially. And he started playing at Shum and Oakenfold's night.
And that's all you need. You just need that break. And all of our DJs on Dance Party are good enough. Well, actually, there's a couple that wouldn't be able to play out, but that's not having no digs at anyone. It's just they wouldn't be up to.
They're at their level that they're at. They just need time.
Just time. And you know, we're all good enough to play out. I mean, I used to play out all the time back in the day on vinyl. You know, lugging bags of vinyls around. And I didn't drive back then. I had to get buses and trains and stuff like that. And I didn't drive, mate. And I had to get buses and trains and everything.
Commitment at the very least.
You know, and back then the buses weren't 24 hours where I lived. And they're still not now.
He gets on one bus, and the second bus has his crate of records.
Yeah, I did have you're going to be walking around with 150 vinyls to do a show. You are. It's just what's needed.
I mean,
you ain't got the scroll option on the screen either. That's like, right.
I remember
to get one lined up and quick.
I remember doing a gig, and not to the extent that Envy was on about, but back in the day, one of the DJs was fairly local to us. That obviously DJ'd with Envy and myself, and I think Envy just said his goodbyes at that point. And he said, "Do you fancy doing a vinyl versus CD night?" Because I was on CDs at that point. So I went, "Yeah, great, no problem." So Doncaster, which is 10 miles from me, rolls up, parks the car. He didn't tell me exactly near his car park. He says, "That one will do." So it was a 5-minute walk. And I'm walking in with cases like this big, 500 CDs in one hand, 500 CDs in the other hand, and a bag over my shoulder as well. So I'm carrying like 1,200 CDs. Walks in. He's on a DVS, isn't he? Not vinyl. He's just, he's just, well, you on the computer? It's not vinyl. Well, I'm doing this. I'm doing the wiki, and I'm like, and there's me I thought I was the techno guy. He's like, no, I'm the guy been lugging all the big bags in. He's just like, rock up with the laptop and off you go. Cheeky
Road.
bugger. Yeah, I won that night anyway. It was CDs who won that night. Even if it wasn't
Yeah,
my
yeah,
favourite, it
yeah.
was. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Mr. Inessa, let's go back and hit some history of Ibiza. What else you want to cover off?
I mean, well, really, it's just, I mean, I'd be curious because I think if I can make it, if I can get the funds together, I do want to go back this year. Obviously, I'll need to get a crew together, but that's the plan, at least.
You know what?
But
interrupting you. We're watching this blog this afternoon, and I said to Envy, it says, look at it. It says the sunset going down. Before I die, I want to do a set and a sun up or a sunset set somewhere out there. It just has to be a tick. Unfortunately, Wongy's had a gig in Ibiza. Great.
Really?
Yeah.
Wongy got a gig in
Ibiza. It's true.
Oh no.
It's
No
true.
way.
No,
Wow, that gives us all hope.
Basically, wasn't by design. He walked in this place.
Wow.
The DJ never turned up or was ill or whatever. And then it was like a tannoy call.
The accidental
like
DJ.
a doctor in the house. There's a DJ in the house. And he goes, me. And he went in there in the back room. All the vinyl was there. And don't ask me how it was. Obviously, his perception to reality might have been a little bit of difference, but he says it went well.
Hey, I mean, you can only take the man at his word.
That is
to be there.
That's your dream, isn't it? That's your dream, and it's now to go into any bar anywhere in the world with your thumb drive saying, please, somebody say.
Just let it break that. Oh, DJ's falling over. He's a bit, he's woozy. Who can play?
In fairness, though, Wongy's brother is a promoter in Ibiza.
Yeah.
Oh, was that how he got the gig then?
No,
no.
Wasn't.
It
Okay,
was just a fluke.
I think he was out visiting him. Yeah, because obviously he was out that way. But yeah, we didn't know Wongy had a brother, and then we known him for 25 years, half brother, by the way. Yeah, and then we didn't know he's a promoter as well. But on a serious note, that when it's ready, his brother's he's had a not great situation. He's the one, unfortunately, been in the car crash we talked about before. So Wongy's brother, wish him all the best. But yeah, once he's back out there again, then at the right time, and that Wongy said we could
find some calls.
Could we get a dance party gig out there? Yeah, but I want to do a sunset
dance party Ibiza, huh?
Just, I mean, I know I'm into my tech house and stuff, but I just want something deep, some chill tunes, sun going down.
Yeah, but that personifies Ibiza, that very sound. So there's always a place for it, because I mean, just walking along the bars in San Antonio, I mean, that's all you hear all over the radio. So there's always a place for that. I think it's just, as long as the bar's in a decent location.
And then Envy's playing his electro house
and back alley encounters.
It's like
I covered for Nessa once. I covered one of your shows once, and I was playing Deep House at 1:30.
Deep House at 1:30.
Just to give it a bit of energy.
Well, this is it. I mean, that sort of had its sort of explosion, around 2010, 2011. I think that sort of culminated with Hungry for the Power by Jamie Jones. That sort of really blew it up. I think Disclosure had a hand in it as well. And yeah, you just sort of saw all that come through. And then obviously kind of ties in with Ibiza, how techno sort of exploded as well. Because I think that was Richie Hawtin started. It was Richie Hawtin Presents Enter, which I think kicked off in 2013. And that sort of, I mean, techno was always there at nights like Cocoon, but I think just that sort of sparked it off, because then everyone's having a techno event.
Well, that's the kind of vibe in it. It's the tech house, techno, that side of obviously dance music. I mean, trance was always fairly popular.
That was the
Europe.
dominant.
Yeah,
that was probably the dominant force throughout the 90s, because you had Cream, Amnesia, you had obviously Judgment Sundays, Eden.
Yeah, good old Just Jules.
Oh yeah, I mean, I admittedly I went to Judgment Sundays each time I went there, purely because you just want to see what it's all about, see all the hype. I was surprised. I say it's how small Eden is, or was. I think it's changed now, but yeah, it's one of the smaller clubs. But actually, it was ideal. It's still 2,500, 3,000 in the place, maybe even more. So I say small. It's
comparative to 10K. Yeah,
yeah. Well, this is it. Although I wouldn't say Privilege was the best nightclub. It is the biggest. It had all that hype about it. It's the biggest one in the world. We've got the swimming pool that no one can go in. I mean, I guess you don't want people diving into a pool at a club night all pilled up and such, but at the same time, I was a bit underwhelmed. I mean, obviously you're there, you're like, wow, shit, you know, I'm in the biggest nightclub in the world, but I was a bit, okay, there's, other than the size of it, there's not a whole lot more to it.
So I suppose you can
Sometimes
get
the
too
best
big.
nights, but sometimes the best nights and the best venues are not the ones that hold, you know, 1,000
No, I
people.
completely agree.
Sometimes you can go into a little venue. There's a little venue I used to DJ at regularly, in Islington on Upper Street, and it held about 150 people, maybe a little bit less. And I had some of my best nights in there.
Same could be
DJing.
said of that Raduno bar for Trance Sanctuary. Shout out Mark Landrigan. But yeah, that was, you know, we literally, they had to turn people away by the time, you know, and it's sort of second, third year there. They were like, well, mate, we're outgrowing this place, and hence Egg sort of approached them, or they approached Egg, and yeah, you know, it's, yeah, it just goes to show.
I think, you know, the small venues, people are missing out on some of these smaller venues because they all want to go to these big festivals now. They're missing out on the atmosphere you get in them smaller venues. You know, that feel, that vibe, you know, that closeness of everyone.
Well, all your big stars, they end up, you know, pop stars, rock stars, they end up doing the small intimate gigs. Well, they've done the massive arena tours and everything like that. They always come back to their roots because,
I can't imagine Carl Cox playing to 200 people, mate.
No, what I'm saying is that
you're surprised.
Your smaller personal invite gigs, when you can actually see the faces of people, just like a massive faces. Yeah, it's a completely different atmosphere because you can see their reaction and feel their reaction, and it's a small room, and therefore the atmosphere is going to be completely different than obviously a massive arena. Yeah, and I think there's a bit of nostalgia in it for them as well, because obviously that's where they started playing, in it, the small venues, they built up, and now they don't need the money for that. They just need the more.
They can just play where they want. They're just more interested in playing in a place they know they love with a good sound system. They know obviously they'll fill it. So obviously for them, it's not about the number. They'll get the numbers. That's not the issue. It's more just where do you want to play today?
Exactly. I wish I could go back to that little place in Upper Street. It's closed down now.
It's probably some like 2-bedroom
probably a
flat
coffee
now.
shop or it's either a coffee shop or a food shop or like you say, a flat or something. But yeah, I'd love to go back there and do another set.
In the front room.
You know what I found with the bigger venues?
Should just rock up, knock on their door and go, can we have a mix in your living room while you're eating your fish and chips? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, whilst I sort of grew out of wanting to be right up close to see the DJ early on, I was like, actually, A, it's too much effort, B, it's not even fucking necessary. And yeah, I got over that phase very quickly. But with the bigger venues, I think, sometimes he's so far back that you think, well, he's not really with the crowd. Obviously, ultimately, I guess the older I get, the less of a shit I give. But that was also a factor for me early on.
Sometimes, why would you want to be in the crowd when all you're doing is watching the screen?
Yeah, that's another thing as well. Unless they've got a really elaborate stage setup to sort of occupy the big open space, which is why I don't really like old theatres as nightclubs. Some of them work really well.
Camden Palace worked really well.
Camden Palace. I'm going there actually on the 28th to see Mall Grab. First gig I've been to there since I think I saw Paul Van Dyke in 2011 or maybe 09. But
it was still Camden. Still Camden Palace in 09, though, wasn't it?
I think by that point it had switched to Coco.
Oh, yeah,
I do remember the old days that there was days of Peach at Camden Palace.
Peach.
That was
banging nights.
There you go, way back with Graham Gold as the old
yes,
resident.
mate. They were proper nights. You know, everyone would, even though it was a huge place, massive, 3 floors, wasn't it? You know, even though it was that big, it still felt like you were.
The audio in there wasn't bad. And I just think it was, I mean, certainly the times I went since, it was, for me, it wasn't so. I like nightclubs all around because obviously you feel immersed in it. Whereas that for me, it's a live music venue more than a nightclub, I would say. Whilst I've had some great nights there, I think it's more suited for live venues because I wouldn't say you've got the stage lit up. The rest is sort of, it's a bit, I'm in a live venue.
I like Camden Palace, but
they've dressed it up well. I mean, it's a great club, but
I've never been there since it's been Coco's. Never.
Oh, really? I think it's worth checking out. I think you should check it out on a lineup you're going to enjoy. I'd say,
Yeah.
you know, you at least pay homage to, you got to at least check out the new school. You say you want to keep up with the times, so, you know, see, this is part, you can't just play to the kids. You gotta, you know, you gotta play with the kids in the clubbing sense.
He's brilliant because, like, in the last couple of years, he's gone like, "Oh, Future House, yeah, 2010, mate. You know, been there, done that."
Yeah, but I wasn't around, was I?
You got to go out to play with them a couple of times.
Well, the thing is, he plays a lot more tech house now, and he quite likes tech house. To start off with, about 18 months ago, it's like boring as hell, isn't it? Thank you for watching and listening to the Dance Party 247 podcast. Remember, we're on YouTube and Spotify as well. You can even watch us on video on Spotify, but you need to be logged in. And I found that out when I didn't log in the other day, that you're going to get the audio. So make sure you're logged in to watch us. Like, subscribe, hit notification bell on YouTube. We've had Mr. DJ Envy this evening and our good friend and dance party colleague, Anessa. Thank you for watching. We'll see you soon. Ta-da.